This is the Tairua harbour entrance. Yesterday, a volcano erupted in Tonga, causing a huge tsunami. We didn't get the worst of it, but we definitely got some of it. And this dive, I could really feel it. To put it simply, I knew that this was going to be a shit dive. However, I was interested to go and see for myself. Who knows, maybe the 20-pound trevally is moving close during a tsunami, volcanic eruption, tropical cyclone combination. There's only one way to find out. You know the viz is mean when you can hardly see the end of your gun, especially when that gun's a converted Rob Allen Scorpio 500. Very short, and I'm having trouble seeing it. So it might seem a bit reckless, and rightfully so. I wouldn't recommend that anyone else does this. I'm very familiar with this location and have dived it a lot. However, it's always a scary experience for me. I would consider this spot to be a multiple hazard area. You get a lot of current because it's a channel entrance. You get a lot of sharks because it's a channel entrance. You get a lot of boats because it's a channel entrance. And generally the visibility is terrible. This was no exception. I was diving at bang on low tide. Generally speaking, you can take solace in the fact that sharks only accidentally attack humans when they have misidentified them, for the most part. However, when the visibility is like this, that doesn't really account for much. This day I'd come out to get some mussels. It was quite time sensitive, so I needed to get in the water and get some this day, despite the conditions. However, I'm glad I made it out here this day. It wasn't life threatening or anything, but it was honestly scary. I was just envisioning a big bronze dog swimming into my leg and having a little taster. So this dive was very challenging physically. The current was absolutely ripping. I had to kick my hardest to stay in one spot and get down and stay there, using a lot of energy in the process, making the dives relatively short. However, the hardest part of this dive was the mental battle. Diving in that green water is just terrifying, honestly. Like, there's no two ways around it. I've been diving for a long time, but in water like that, I'm still scared. This dive, I was employing a system that I sometimes use in this area when the current's very strong. I'll do a dive, and then as I'm coming up, move off to the side and breathe up, regain my energy in some shallow water that can kneel on and be out of the current. If you're kicking into the current and expect to make good dives where you're going to be relaxed and get decent bottom time, you're pretty much dreaming. The scariest part is the descent, leaving the relative safety of the surface and descending down to the bottom. We never know what you're going to run into. You could land on a shark, could land on a stingray, or a bunch of mussels, you never know. It's part of the excitement and part of the scariness. On the bottom, I'm trying to remain relatively quiet so I don't attract any unwanted attention as such. I'm leaving it to the end of my dive to pick up the mussels and makes a bit of a cracking sound underwater, which could attract some fish or some sharks. In life, it's always the times that you're challenging yourself that you learn the most about yourself. Putting yourself through uncomfortable experiences, you get to see a different side of you. How far are you willing to go in pursuit of what you came for? How easily are you going to give up? Are you going to throw in the towel as soon as you get there and the conditions aren't ideal? Or are you going to persevere, make it happen, and emerge victorious? Recently I've been diving the spot a lot. I really enjoy it. You can find some great fish here. It's really challenging both mentally and physically, and it's extremely accessible. It's the Tairua harbour entrance. You can pretty much park your car right at the spot, get in the water and get a fish. That said, I wouldn't recommend diving here to pretty much anybody. It's really dangerous. I've almost been hit by a jet ski here. I've seen sharks. There's a lot of lines underwater to tangle yourself on. So if you're interested in diving it, hit me up first. Let me give you some information that might help you, because seriously, this spot is no joke. I have some more footage from this area that I'm going to get through eventually. I shot a kingfish here quite recently, basically in the same spot, so the fish are definitely there. I've seen them on a lot of occasions, but they're really hard to actually shoot. Fish in the harbour are a lot smarter than ones you're going to find out in the open ocean. Fish in the harbour spend basically their whole lives around humans and are pretty wise as a result. All the ones that'll take a line or swim up to a diver, they don't last very long, so you're left with just the smart ones. Tairua can be a deceptive place. The harbour is often very flat, however has a lot of current, and can be very misleading. When out in the open ocean, conditions can be very different. This was experienced by quite a few people recently. Over the past week and a half, there's been 3 boats that have flipped on the Tairua bar after trying to get out in less than ideal conditions. And there has been one death also as a result. Because of my job, I ended up having to talk to maritime officers on multiple occasions about that incident. So yeah, just be wise and don't put yourself in unnecessarily dangerous situations if you're not prepared to handle the consequences and you're inexperienced. Do as I say, not as I do. So by this point, the current had actually increased, despite supposedly being an incoming tide at this time. So I decided to call it a day, quit while I'm ahead, get out of the water, and have a nice, relatively relaxing afternoon at work. While this video certainly wasn't crystal clear water with massive fish being shot in the head and stoned, I thought it was worth sharing with you anyway. It was a very interesting experience and a challenge. Would I do it again? No, not a chance. Am I glad I did it? Absolutely. I had fun, kind of, but I was extremely glad to be out of the water. Out of that terrible viz and onto dry land. For my efforts, I got 20 odd mussels. This episode's sustainability message is sustain your own life. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.